All right, welcome. Today we are going to tackle one of the most important concepts in all of Kubernetes, services. And to make it all make sense, we're going to do it with a fun analogy. Let's imagine we're running a restaurant, a Kubernetes restaurant.
So, picture this. In our special restaurant, our applications are these delicious cakes, and each cake is served on a plate, which we'll call a pod. Now, this place is super high-tech. It's incredibly efficient, but it's also, well, it's chaotic. The kitchen manager is a little bit obsessive, and things move really, really fast.
And all that chaos, it creates a pretty big problem. See, our cakes, our pods, they can crash. A waiter might drop one and poof, a new one is instantly baked and brought out, but it's placed on a completely different table. So if you're the customer, how in the world do you find your dinner when it's constantly on the move? You can't just rely on the table number, the IP address, because that's changing all the time.
Yeah, let's give this a name. We'll call it the Vanishing Cake Problem. A pod, our cake, crashes. The system, like a good manager, replaces it immediately. But that new cake shows up on a new table, what we call a node, and it has a totally different internal name. If you were trying to find that one specific cake, you'd be totally lost. This is the exact reason Kubernetes services were invented.
So, how does Kubernetes solve this messy problem? Well, it introduces something called a Kubernetes service. The best way to think about it is as a stable, unmoving anchor in all this chaos. It's a single, permanent address that represents a whole group of pods. It's really an elegant solution that brings order to the restaurant floor.
Back in our restaurant, this solution is like a giant heavy reception desk that's literally bolted to the floor. It is not going anywhere. Its address, which we call its ClusterIP, is permanent. It never ever changes. So it doesn't matter what kind of craziness is happening in the dining room, customers now have one single, reliable place to go to check on their order.
So, you're probably wondering, how does this desk actually work its magic? Well, it has three key components. First, there's the desk itself, right? It's fixed, giving us that stable IP address. Second, the receptionist wears a pair of magic glasses. These are what we call label selectors. They let the receptionist see only the specific cakes they're looking for, say all the strawberry cakes. And third, they've got a live clipboard, which is the endpoints list. This is a list that's constantly being updated in real time, showing the exact location of every single healthy cake.
Okay, great. So the reception desk has totally solved our internal chaos. The staff, other applications inside our cluster can now reliably find the cakes they need. But what about the outside world? How does a customer standing on the street, totally outside the restaurant, actually get their order in?
Well, the default service type, that reception desk address, is a cluster IP. And you can think of that as a staff-only intercom. It's an internal system. The chef can use it to call the pantry, no problem. But a customer out on the sidewalk, they can't dial in. It's absolutely perfect for internal communication, but it still doesn't solve our external access problem. To get orders from the outside, we have two main options. First up, there's the NodePort. This is kind of like a takeout window. You're basically drilling a hole into the restaurant wall at the exact same spot or port on every single one of your nodes. It's a bit of a do-it-yourself solution, The customer has to know the exact address of that little window. The other option is the LoadBalancer, which is like having a professional valet service. The valet stands right out front at a single public address and just handles everything for you. It's the much more polished, professional way to get inside.
Now, when you look at these, it's really easy to think that they're just three separate choices. You pick one. Do you want the intercom, the takeout window, or the valet? But that's not quite how it works. And this is the most important part. The crucial question is, how are these three things, ClusterIP, NodePort, and LoadBalancer, actually connected to each other?
The answer is that they form a chain of command. Let's trace an order from the outside. First, the customer on the street talks to the valet. That's our load balancer. Then the valet literally shouts the order through the hole in the wall. That's the NodePort. And finally, who hears that order? The reception desk, our ClusterIP service, which then uses its live clipboard to direct the order to a correct, healthy cake. And here it is, the big aha moment. They aren't separate things at all. They're actually nested layers of the exact same system. Think of them like those Russian nesting dolls. The professional valet on the outside is really just a nice, clean way to access the takeout window, which in turn is just a pass-through to the real brains of the operation, the reception desk on the inside. This is what I like to call the nesting doll reality of Kubernetes services. When you tell Kubernetes, hey, I want a load balancer, our valet, it automatically creates the NodePort, the window,
and the ClusterIP, the desk to support it. So the most important thing to remember is this: the Valet is just a fancy front for the desk's core logic. Without that desk, the Valet is completely useless. So, let's just quickly wrap up why this matters so much. First, you get stability. Services give you that one single unchanging address. Second, you get abstraction. Your developers don't have to waste time tracking every single individual pod. Third, it handles load balancing for you, automatically sending traffic only to the pods that are healthy and ready to work. And finally, it's just a wonderfully clean and simple way to manage all your traffic, both internal and external. It's a seriously genius design when you think about it. And really, that brings us to the core idea. The true power of a Kubernetes service isn't really about all the complex technology under the hood. It's about a very simple promise, the promise of stability in a world that is literally designed for chaos. It's all about creating a calm, predictable front door for a system that's dynamic and constantly changing behind the scenes. And now, you know exactly how that door works.